afternoon. Welcome to Community and Technology. We're connecting the global community with news, information, and resources that we hope will help improve your life. I'm Stu Reid. Here's my co-host, Dave Burstein. Hey, Dave.
Hello. We got
What's
another medical story to open up with.
Yeah, but please talk to us about it. I know that's one area that AI and just research in general seems to be having, maybe not AI, but research seems to be making leaps and bounds in the medical area. What do you have to bring to us today?
Yeah, it's really amazing. I read three or four science journals every week.
Mm-hmm.
Don't actually read most of there. Just look at the summaries and see what's interesting. And I still can't believe how much progress is happening
Mm-hmm.
in everything from curing sickle cell, as we talked about last week,
Right.
to getting somewhere with Alzheimer's.
That's big.
Yeah. You
Mm-hmm.
ask any doctor 3 years ago, do I have mild Alzheimer's? I'm starting to worry. I'm forgetting. I'm old and I'm forgetting a fair amount. Does that mean I have Alzheimer's? And the answer was going to be, well, we can look at a few tests and so on, but they don't really tell us very much. And we don't have, and even if we found out you did, we don't have anything we could do about it.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
That was what you would hear, as I in fact heard when I asked just that question of the
Wow.
doctor.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
There now are drugs that are making a difference. There now are better tests. And it's really become clear that you can avoid Alzheimer's or make the chances much lower by taking care of basic things like your
Like what?
blood
What
pressure
kind of
and
things
your
you talking
sugar.
about?
I'm sorry?
By taking care of what kind of things? You're talking about diet, exercise, mental exercise, or what?
All the basic good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like keeping your blood pressure under control, keeping your blood sugar under control, getting up on my exercise bicycle for a half an hour a day,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm not been always doing. So, and
Mm-hmm.
this is reminding me, it turns out they've now done the research over long periods of time, and all those things matter.
Wow.
And there are drugs that are not working very well, but are working some and could give you another year or 3 years of comfortable life.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I brought it here is, besides giving you a lecture about taking care of yourself, where I feel kind of funny because I don't do that good a job taking care of myself, is to say there are things that doctors can do if you're concerned, and almost everybody my age, I'm in my 70s,
Mm-hmm.
is concerned, should let a doctor make a decision for you.
Okay, now Dave,
They,
have there been some medical breakthroughs? I mean, in terms of drug treatment, that traditional medical approaches.
yep,
Sounds like initially you're talking more about holistic kinds of treatment in terms of general eating, diet, exercise, that kind of stuff.
I'm all in favor of holistic health
Mm-hmm.
and taking care of yourself, but there now is two FDA licensed drugs.
Mm.
Well, Leqembi is the one that this particular doctor recommended, that are making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
They're not cures yet.
Right.
And the article, which was by a practicing physician, was saying there's lots more in the pipeline in clinical testing
Mm-hmm.
that looks like it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely, yes, take care of yourself, get advice on how to take care of yourself from those you trust, and give the doctors a chance because now they have some tools that can make a
What's the
difference.
name of the drug that this story talked about, Dave?
Leqembi,
Leqembi.
Lequibie.
EBI.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's ridiculously expensive, but it is covered by insurance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not curing people, but it seems to me make a difference in people's lives. So you want to at least talk about it to the
Okay.
physician. Now, let's go to another story that's interesting. Again, this is coming out of my reading just the science magazines. This came from Quanta, which is a really good magazine. Does a lot of chemistry and other science stuff at a serious level. Let me ask you, do you think dogs, like we have in many households, are conscious, can feel pain?
I would say yes, Dave. I have never had a dog of my own, but I've been around them enough. I remember as a young guy, my cousin had a dog. We'd visit and hang out with them in the summertime. And I remember my brother Tony, he loved dogs, and the dog would run to him and lick his face. It's like they had a love affair with each other. And then another thing that I saw a YouTube video, this is going back some years, of a military guy who had been away at war, and he came back home surprisingly, opened the screen door, and there was a shot from inside looking at the wife and the dog, the family dog. As the dog saw him, Dave, I've never seen a tail wag so vigorously. Like this guy the dog had a helicopter motor on his tail. He went crazy just at seeing the guy come home. I mean, that's emotion, that's consciousness, that's so much stuff that you could just jumped out of the TV screen watching it. It was unbelievable. Never seen anything like that. The dog was ecstatic. And to me, that's consciousness.
It turns out nobody can really define consciousness or intelligence very well, which is a problem trying to figure out whether the machines are getting close to it. But I think we can agree, and I think almost everybody would agree on us, that many animals, like dogs and cats, are aware of themselves, are affected when you hurt them. And
yeah, I can remember, Dave, just as a side note, I can remember having an argument with my dad as a kid, talking about, eating animal flesh. And he said, well, it's okay because the animals are not self-conscious. They're not aware of themselves. I'm talking about pigs and beef and chickens and turkeys, the animals that many of us eat. And, that kind of stuck in my head. I was never real comfortable with that. And it sounds like now we're discovering more and more that many of these animals are conscious. What's the story say?
Well, the story is coming from a group, I think 35 have signed the statement already, of scientists who are working with things like octopuses, fish, and obviously monkeys and dogs and so on. And what they're seeing is that however we define consciousness, a lot of animals seem to have it. That they can recognize themselves in a mirror is one of the tests they're now doing routinely. And that tells you a lot. And they found a fish could.
A fish?
Yep.
Wow. What was the test for that, Dave? Do you know? I mean, how did they?
All I know is it was literally looking at themselves in the mirror and responding. Wow. I don't know if the details on that.
Wow.
And that has a lot of complications, especially because they're saying that they can see some of this stuff happening in bees and other insects.
Whoa.
That one of the tests they were doing with bees is, beside the usual tests where you give them rewards and food and so on, which we know animals respond to, giving them little wooden balls, their size, and seeing what happens. And they start playing with them.
The bees started playing,
kicking around the wooden balls.
Wow.
And what does that mean? Are they conscious? Are they conscious in the same way we are? Definitely not. Are they consciousness in a way that that it deserves respect.
Mm,
Well, the scientists are finding a lot of evidence. Now, that of course ties into artificial intelligence,
mm,
where many top people think we're very close with the neural networks to delivering something that can think for itself. One definition is
how much of this stuff is real? I mean, there's so much hype around AI. I mean, is this stuff real? I mean, are we just, talking to entertain ourselves and each other? What's the real deal here?
it's real,
Mm-hmm.
but an awful lot of what you're going to hear is hype.
Mm-hmm.
And people are starting to realize that.
Right.
For example, we know that it can make a big difference in things like Google search,
Mm-hmm.
or I read all the Chinese, not all, I read the Chinese press almost every day in
Mm-hmm.
Google Translation. EI is doing lots of stuff like that. It's doing facial recognition, which is going to be convenient. You can go into the subway in China, in some cities, and look at the screen, and it can say, "Okay, I know who you are. I'll debit your pass. Just walk on through the entrance."
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
There, there are two drugs in clinical trial that were developed by AI,
Mm-hmm.
which is showing possibilities. On the other hand, there's 3,000 drugs that have been discovered in other ways that are in trials. Uh, they may have, and I just read a good book on AI in medicine. Ooh, okay, my battery's down to 15%.
Yeah.
That should give me a little bit of time.
Dave may be leaving us soon, folks. So good.
Uh,
You're talking about AI in medicine, Dave.
yeah, there are some definite, well, there's some definite, not just achievements, but things that can make a difference in the world today.
Mm,
They 3 or 4 years ago, they showed that they can do a quick picture scan of your retina, your eye,
hmm
and tell you whether you have diabetes that's causing damage.
mm.
That's working and being used in regular work. One of the ones that came out about 3 weeks ago was a huge survey out of England. More than 10,000 mammographies were read both by two radiologists and by the AI. Which do you think did better?
I'm going to bet on the AI, but you're begging the question.
It would, yeah, it wouldn't be a story or something to talk about if it wasn't that the AI
Right.
actually did slightly better than the doctors.
Uh-huh.
To be precise, on over 10,000 women, it found 12 very small possible cancers
Hmm.
that may never have grown to a point where it was a problem for the woman,
Mm-hmm.
and had years and years to go before it was likely to be large enough to be an issue. And all they found were the very small ones. Uh, that is really impressive, but it's not a breakthrough in that would justify the average woman spending $150 more to get her mammography read by a computer as well as by the radiologist, which some hospitals are now selling.
Well, really,
Yep,
as a premium upgrade to your regular mammography?
right. And
Wow.
it's not covered by insurance. Some charge $40 for it, but some charge 150.
Hmm.
And yes, maybe 10 in 10,000, 1 in 1,000 women find something that may mean something.
Mhm.
But that's an enormous breakthrough.
Mhm.
I just got a long thing from a biologist explaining how little the AI is helping them so far.
Mhm. Mhm.
But also another article that came through that they may have found another molecule that works in the CRISPR, the gene editing that, among other things, is now curing sickle cell for some people. So when you ask, is it real? Yeah, I do read the Chinese press.
Mhm.
Is it valuable? Not for most people who aren't writing. Of course, every student teacher is writing,
Mhm.
and most businessmen are writing. And in writing, it definitely can improve your style and catch your errors and so on. But as we know, it's far, far away from what we hope it will be. And
Well,
it may very well.
Dave, tell me, I just saw a headline about some AI framework that Microsoft has, something called VASA1, almost VASA1 or VASA1, and they're saying they don't want to release it because they have ethical concerns about how well it works and how it might fake people out. What is that about?
This was just released about a week ago.
Hmm.
And I showed it to my partner, Jenny, who, among other things, is a video professional.
Hmm.
And she was amazed at the quality of what really were just talking heads,
Hmm.
completely computer generated, first making the model of the person and the head, and then putting words, not sounds, just words written for them in the model to say in any of a dozen different voices. And the breakthrough here is not merely is it doing voices well, it does facial expressions. And most of you are listening on the radio, but I'm holding up my hands as I'm talking, as especially Italians are known for doing, and does that incredibly convincingly.
Now, Dave, this is just to understand what we're talking about here. This technology can take a photograph, a still image of someone, and bring it to life. Is that what we're saying?
It doesn't have to have a photograph or a still image. You
But I
can
mean,
turn around and say, Asian American 50-year-old woman.
okay, but
And
to me, that's a little bit different. That's just a fabricated person. But can the
but taking the
technology do
fabricated
that with
person,
the image of a real person, say a politician,
absolutely.
the president of the United States, and make him say all kind of stuff that he never said?
2 months ago, we talked about how they can, and they did in one of the primaries, I think it was New Hampshire,
Yes, yes.
uh, do the president
They
of the
did it with
United
his voice and
States
robocalls. Yeah.
faking his voice, and
Hmm.
you couldn't tell the difference.
Hmm.
What's added now is you can put the visual with the face, and as you see me talking to you, you're seeing I'm moving my lips, my
Hmm.
head a little to the side, my eyes are concentrating.
Hmm.
That's how we all talk.
Right.
And what the Microsoft China people, team of about a dozen people, have done has made it so realistic it blew Jenny's mind. And a few days later, the article came through that Microsoft has decided it can't release it at this point because there are too many things that it might be abused for. Now, that's
But
not
David,
going to work.
is that going to really be kept under wraps? How are you going to, excuse me, how are you going to keep that
Microsoft,
from the military? How are you going to keep that from the security services? I mean, how are you going to really keep that under wraps so that nobody has it? Is that realistic?
I absolutely guarantee you that why Microsoft may never distribute it, the knowledge of how to do this is around the world, and there are literally hundreds of thousands of engineers working on artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
many of whom could reproduce a project like this, sometimes in days, once you see what Microsoft did and read their paper on how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and if not in days, certainly in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So all the problems that we're hearing about faking absolutely are real and realistic. We had the story of a while back of somebody who sent the somebody senior in the corporate finance department uh, a note saying, please join this Zoom call. And in that Zoom call, had a deep fake version of his colleagues, including the CFO of the company. And as part of that call, they said, wire $50,000 to this account. I think it was a lot more than
Yeah, I think it
$50,000.
was a lot more. I think it was in the millions, Dave. It was a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
haven't released who it was, but lots of news.
Yeah. I think
News.
it was an Asian company, although I don't remember what country.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of thing is there and working. They're really scared of it at the phone companies.
Hmm. Why that?
Why? Because these fakes can get in, pretend to be you, get all your identity information, log on to your accounts, including those which are your bank accounts,
Hmm.
and take it. And the person who's looking at you at the drugs who says, "Oh, are you so and so?" You can fool them every day.
Hmm. Wow.
It just came up in a big statement from all the European telephone companies. Just saw it today.
Mm-hmm.
They put out a statement saying that there's something wrong with the new Privacy and Communications Act that was just passed in Europe and is pretty significant. That it made it clear that if a bank was negligent, for example, giving out your information, and if a phone company did something that made it easy for them, somebody to crack into your bank account, the phone company would be liable for all the money that you stole.
Well, now when you say phone company, you're also saying slash internet company.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so
So
the internet provider carrier would be responsible for the theft that was done over their network. Is that what you're saying?
if their negligence contributed to it,
Okay, that sounds like it'd be a little tricky to prove, I would think.
well, it's tricky to prove, but we certainly could see. Say I lost the password to my uh, Spectrum account
Mm-hmm.
and I needed to get my password recovered.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called up Spectrum and they checked me out. Uh, and I was a fake.
Mm-hmm. And they let the fake in. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
They're liable.
So, yeah. Is it time for our break?
Yeah. Well, when we come back, I want to talk about somewhat, maybe a little more lighthearted, maybe not, use of the deep fakes in personal relationships and what's going on there with deep fake technology.
You can get a boyfriend who never talks back and is always friendly and
Wow.
always helpful. And if you want them to talk about doing other things, yes, that works too.
Well, okay. We're going to talk about that when we come back. This is Community and Technology on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem, with Dave Burstein and Stu Reid. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a brief musical break.
Baby, baby, You don't understand how much I love you, baby, and how much I wanna be your only man. Oh, baby. Baby, 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 you don't have to go. Stay a little while longer, baby. I wanna talk to you just a little more. I see the little tears in your eyes about to fall. You are wondering if I'm for real. But if you cry, I wonder why you cry. I tell you no lie, this is how I feel. Baby, I'm for real. Baby, I'm for real. Baby, I'm for real. But if you want to know the truth about it, girl, I just couldn't live without you. And that's why I'm confessing my love to you. So that I can live my whole life with you. Baby, baby, baby. Never, 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 never gonna leave you, baby.
Okay, we're back. Community and Technology on WHR 90.3 FM with Dave Burstein and Stu Reid. Dave, before we get into talking about some more of the AI stuff, I think you had a few news items you wanted to bring to our audience.
Yeah, I'm an omnivore. I read so much, from the New York Times to the New England Journal to the Chinese technical press. I see a lot of things that most people haven't seen. So stories that have just come out, worth knowing about. One, Ozempic. Ozempic is being used, it seems, like by almost every actress in Hollywood at this point. They're all,
That's a diabetes drug that causes weight loss. Is that right?
yep. It was developed as a diabetes drug. It's called the GLP-1 agonist. It mimics a hormone that your body produces, regulating blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that 6 years ago, as it started getting out widely, became clear it has a side effect. It knocks down your weight on average 15 to 30%.
Wow.
Now, remember the pressure that actresses are under to be thin. The classic example of that is Judy Garland, that they addicted her to drugs, speed basically, because they gave it to her as diet pills.
Wow.
And she wound up dying of an overdose one day. Valley of the Dolls story. And this miracle drug is out, and there's 2 GLP-1s that have been proven to weight loss. There's about 4 others that probably work just as well. And it turns out that another class, the SGLT2, also a diabetes drug, seems to have the similar weight loss effect.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Somebody who hasn't looked at this at all. Once you take the pill, do you have to keep taking it to keep the weight loss down, or do you lose the weight and then you can get off of the pill?
You're on it for the rest of your life. Your weight comes back up if you stop it.
Gee, wow.
And we're talking about a pill that cost $15,000 a year in the US if it's not covered by insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Sanders was just up there saying this is criminal. No reason.
But Dave,
here's
there's got to be some side effects. If this pill was designed to treat diabetes and you have folks that are non-diabetic taking it in order to lose weight, there's got to be some negative side effects. No, are they looking at that?
Oh, there are definitely negative side effects. In fact, I know about one. When you start taking it, you're likely for the next month or two to be nauseous, maybe vomit, for example. Some people have stopped taking it because it was just too much for them. That usually goes away after a couple of months. But that's a serious side effect. A very few people seem to be getting inflammation of the pancreas.
Wow.
But it's rare. And it may be that by discouraging you from eating, it's inviting you to eat poorly and become undernourished. Especially when people are taking it for weight loss, and there's this enormous demand in our society to be skinny. So yes.
Okay, so Dave, another question. I know you're not an MD, but does it change your metabolism? Does it change your eating habits by decreasing your hunger? How does this drug work? Can you explain it in layman terms?
Yeah. You're not as hungry so often. I'm speaking as somebody who's taking it for my diabetes and has been taking it and lost 100 pounds over the last 8 years.
Wow.
That's that's almost miraculous, and it makes a huge difference in my health. So that it is a drug that has side effects. It should be watched carefully, and it's brutally expensive in the United States.
Is it less expensive than other places, Dave? I mean, you mentioned the $15,000 a year in the U.S. What's it cost in Europe or China?
Well, the Germans pay $59 a month.
Wow.
The Canadians pay $155 a month. I think the Chinese were 95. I have that number.
Is drugs subsidized in those countries, or is it just that the pharmaceuticals are not as greedy?
It's the same pharmaceutical.
Really?
Yeah, Novo Nordisk, a Danish company.
Are we subsidizing the rest of the world? What's going on here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the drug companies say we have to have these high prices in the United States so that we can afford the research. Novo has been so successful with this drug over the last 3 years that it's distorted the economics of the country they're in, which is Denmark. Relatively small company, but they have made so many $1 billion. They went from being a profitable drug company to $500 billion in market value, and the most valuable company in Europe.
What's the name of the company?
Novo Nordisk. They've been making insulin for 100 years. So, and they did good research. The drug itself was invented by a US government scientist. They found a natural hormone that your body is constantly producing called GLP-1, a glucagon-like peptide, I think is what it stands for. And what they did at Novo and several other drug companies, the drug your body produces has to be produced continuously. It gets broken down in a few hours.
Mhm.
And all the drug companies did is they took the research from the US government, slightly reformulated the drug, did the testing, and sell it with an absolute monopoly. They can charge whatever they like in the United States. Almost every other developed country does not allow drug companies to charge whatever they feel like. That Canada, as I say, $155 US a month, US over $1,000 a month.
Mhm.
So Novo is very happily selling the exact same drug, which comes in as an injectable. So it does cost maybe $10 or $20 a month to make it. For $79 in Germany and over $1,000 in the United States.
Mhm.
Or, as it's put, there is no rational reason other than greed for Novo Nordisk to charge Americans $1,000 a month for Ozempic. That's
Wow.
Bernie Sanders,
Mhm.
who told the New York Times the prices I just quoted you in Germany and Canada. That's something I wanted to bring into this. The other one that I wanted to bring in is it probably, well, yes, the United States is consciously sabotaging green energy.
Really?
Absolutely. Uh, that really surprised me. But here's what the story is. Gina Raimondi, Secretary of Commerce, was just in China and told the Chinese that if they continue to ship so many solar panels to the United States, the US was going to put a big tariff on it to raise the price. And we just put a 25% tariff on Chinese steel. So this is very realistic. Solar panels, green energy, the thing that we're trying to change the world to. We're telling Chinese who have the capacity to make twice as much as they currently are with coming online. The plants are being
That
built right
sounds
now.
like the problem there, David. We're willing to change the world, but only if we control it and profit from it, not others.
Well, I'll tell you the technology and the story, and you can make your own conclusions on this.
Mhm.
In Germany, the solar panels are so cheap. We think of solar panels as being put on the roof because they need as much solar energy coming to them as possible. In Germany, they're putting them on fences,
Hmm.
which are not facing up, are facing out or vertical instead of horizontal, get less solar energy, but they're so cheap
Mhm.
that, and that's happened because the Chinese have developed the technology and the manufacturing technology and have invested literally tens of billions of dollars into building the plants to make it.
Mhm.
60% of the solar energy in the world is produced in China right now.
Mhm.
85%, according to one number I saw, of the solar panels used anywhere in the world come from China.
Mhm.
And the US and the EU are saying, but if the Chinese keep selling it at these prices, all our companies that make them are going to go broke.
Yeah.
And they are. The Chinese are, and they're saying, oh, it's basically this used government subsidies, which is nonsense. There are a lot of government subsidies in China, just as we just put 55 billion into subsidizing chip manufacturing in the United States.
Mhm.
That's not why they're cheaper. They're cheaper because the Chinese have invested from the beginning in the research and in the manufacturing and have a volume so much higher than anyone else that their cost of production are lower.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Are the solar panels getting any better or just getting cheaper? Are they getting more efficient or just cheaper?
They've been getting more efficient for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
When I first learned about solar panels, they were costing thousands of dollars, and nobody in the world except NASA was building them. They needed them to get as a way to get electrical power up on the satellites.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, they're becoming 10 times as efficient, much cheaper to produce, and has gone to the point where in California right now, they sometimes have to turn off the incoming solar power because it's more than the total grid needs. If you are California is a system that as you put solar panels on your roof, you can sell that electricity to the electric company for 20 cents a kilowatt hour or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always being negotiated what it was. And they have different pricing. And what is happening now is not much of the time, but occasionally, the price of the solar energy that comes from your panel to the electric company has gone negative. You have to pay the electric company to take it from you.
Whoa.
That's for brief times, and it has a lot to do with how much can be stored.
Mm-hmm.
And
They're overloaded and don't have a way to take it. Is that it? It costs some money to take it.
that's the way. And again, this is the exception. It's not what's usually happening. There's still plenty of room to do more solar power, especially in the summer. But they pointed out in the spring, when it's not that hot that you need air conditioning, but it's not that cold that you need heating, the demand for electricity goes all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they're having the excess that's there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so the techniques are getting better, but the most thing is it almost everything we know how to make, when you build up enough volume and you build up the plants. This is true on computers and chips ever since I started knowing them.
Mm-hmm.
You go down the production curve and your cost to produce it goes down with volume. And that's the main thing that the Chinese have. There are 1.4 billion Chinese. They're, for comparison, about 330 million Americans.
4-1.
4-1.
Mm-hmm.
They're much poorer on average than we are. So the size of the economy is about the same. So the per capita in China is about a quarter of what it is in the US, pulled down by the 30 or 40% of Chinese who are still working on the farms.
Yeah, but that's a heck of a labor force, body count.
It's not merely a labor force, it's a demand force.
Mm-hmm.
There are that many more people to buy refrigerators, air conditioners, and solar panels, and electric cars. 60% or so of the electric cars sold last year were in China. And they have enough volume that they're selling at $20,000 for what in America, Tesla and GM wants to get $30,000 for.
So I guess it sounds like you're getting to the point why this country is so scared of China, just in terms of their volume and their capacity. And now that they have come out of the dark ages and into the 21st century technologically, they're quite a juggernaut.
And this is the problem the Europeans, this is why there's a European Union.
Mm-hmm.
The Europeans couldn't compete with the Americans.
Mm-hmm.
That a country like France or Germany or England has closer to 50 million. We have over 300 million. The US market is so big that the US had economies of scale. And in fact, one of the best sellers a while back was called The American Challenge, Jean-Jacques Servan-Schreiber around 1975, explaining the Europeans had to get together and create the common market so they can compete with Americans in order to get it. And we're now on the other side of that.
Mhm.
as China and increasingly India are industrializing.
Mhm.
Okay, but let's go to boyfriends and girlfriends. That's more
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah. A little bit lighter, but kind of insidious when you really dig down. But what's going on? This is AI technology at work in the social media sphere.
All over the place in a dozen different ways, and it is now commercial. About 2 or 3 months ago, I brought you the story of a artificial model created to be an artificial girlfriend, and they were making $30,000 a month, charging people for this artificial model to talk to them about sex.
Hmm.
And obviously, there's a great sized market of people who talk and now making video about sex. It's called porn. And porn has always been a huge business. It's what we usually get first as you get new technology.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember when
VFXX.
video cassettes came out, the number one seller, what drove the whole creation of video stores was pornography. I guess we shouldn't be surprised.
Yep,
Oldest profession on the planet.
second oldest,
Uh,
third oldest.
but behind what?
They didn't have way back then. They didn't have any way to record things.
Oh no, no, I'm talking about, the baseline underneath it. I'm talking about sex, selling sex.
Huh.
So, however it is conceived or manifest.
Right now, you can have a very effective fake boyfriend or girlfriend.
Hmm.
Jenny just made a sizzle reel for a prospective TV show. 5 minutes to show what to promote it.
Hmm.
She used as the announcer a voice generated by a company called 11.ai. That the gentleman here talking about the jewelry contest that this show is going to be was sounded totally natural, professional, and was totally simulated.
Hmm.
At the same time, as we know, ChatGPT can have a conversation with you, and it has fewer and fewer limits. So people, we saw it, we've seen this in the movies, we've seen it in science fiction, and now it's not perfect. And think of the advantages of an AI boyfriend or girlfriend. They never talk back.
And you could probably shape the responses and the personality to fit exactly what you're looking for. And I imagine
Absolutely.
eventually we're not there yet, but I imagine eventually they're going to be able to do the same with the video representation of that voice.
Not eventually. That works in the laboratory today.
Wow.
And people, as I was saying,
Hmm.
Microsoft has the headshot of
Yeah.
the person talking that looks like a person talking. Like right now, I'm talking to you and my head's
Hmm.
bobbing up and down. It does all of that. It looks absolutely realistic. And more that's hitting the market, and it definitely works in the lab and it's starting to work in the field.
Wow.
Now, what the visual is going to be, you're not going to be able to create it on ChatGPT or most of the major AI companies. They mostly have filters to make it difficult or impossible to produce porn. But there's a whole lot of other AI, much of which is open source, some of which you can run just fine on a $3,000 or $4,000 gaming PC
Hmm.
that can generate a very convincing voice, a more and more convincing video, and also the content that makes it sound like, well, what people pay phone operators to do on phone sex. And that's already happening, and it's totally available. And I have no expertise on how it's going to use and how it's going to be produced or what the business is, but I can tell you the technology works.
And I can tell you they're going to figure it out. Wow, Dave. Well, you know, to me, I mean, the sexual thing is probably in some ways leading the charge on that. But, you know, the bigger picture for me is that, you know, not that far down the road, we're not going to really be able to trust or believe anything that we see or hear unless
That's
it's
already true.
unless it's firsthand in person, you know?
Or you know where it's coming from. And in fact, they're putting watermarks on and so on
Yeah.
that you can know what's been produced by AI,
Mm-hmm.
except they don't work very well and they can totally be bypassed.
Well, we're about out of time here, Dave. How would you like to wrap up this segment? What insights or info would you like to share with our audience before we go?
Well, I'm spending all my time on AI these days. We had a guest on the show a few weeks ago talking about all the wonderful things that AI is bringing and will bring. On the other hand, I'm seeing more and more, for example, in medicine. Yes, there are a couple of miracles happening, but mostly it's not working well enough to make much of a difference. Except for people who write for a living, it hasn't affected most people.
Okay.
And that's going to change, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. All righty, there you go. Right now, don't believe the hype. This has been Community and Technology with Dave Burstein and Stu Reid on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem, every Wednesday, 5 o'clock. Tune in. You just might learn something. Thanks. Good night.